My name is Serafina, and perhaps the best decision of my life was moving in with my best friend Hannah for 3 months. Not for Hannah, though, she truly is my little ray of sunshine, but for her uncle, Alaric, the man I've secretly loved for 2 years. The first time I saw Alaric was at Hannah's birthday party. He stood in a secluded corner, separated from the boisterous crowd, yet exuded a regal aura that no one could mistake. His black shirt hugged his perfect physique, and his deep eyes, like a universe unto themselves, captivated my soul from the very first glance. From that moment, his image was etched deep into my mind, becoming a sweet secret I dared not share with anyone, not even Hannah. So when the opportunity arose to move into his villa, I didn't hesitate for a second. This was a gamble, and I was betting my entire heart. Today, as I dragged my heavy suitcase to the door, he was the one who opened it. Still that tall figure silhouetted against the light. Still that black shirt, unbuttoned 2 buttons down, and still that scent of cedarwood mixed with cool mint that always mesmerized me. Serafina, his deep, husky voice calling my name felt like a string plucked in my chest. I smiled, trying to hide my racing heart. "Hello, Uncle Alaric." He raised an eyebrow, perhaps a little surprised by my composure. Without another word, he reached out and effortlessly lifted my heavy suitcase. The moment he passed by, I greedily took a deep breath, inhaling his intoxicating, masculine scent. Alaric, the prey, has appeared. Will the hunter be interested? That night, after tucking my completely drunk best friend into bed, I returned to my room with a bold plan. I deliberately took a long bath, and when I emerged, I wore only a flimsy towel wrapped loosely around me, revealing my bare shoulders and slender legs. Just as I anticipated, the opposite door creaked open. Alaric stood leaning against the wall, a glass of wine in his hand, his sharp, hawk-like eyes fixed on me. He made no attempt to hide the raw appraisal and desire in his gaze. My heart pounded, not from fear, but from exhilaration. Uncle Alaric," I feigned a stutter, subtly tightening the towel with both hands. "My hot water faucet in the bathroom is broken. Could I possibly borrow your bathroom?" He didn't reply immediately, only a slight smirk playing on his lips. A clumsy excuse, yet he didn't call me out. "My bathroom is inside." He turned and walked towards his room, leaving the door ajar. It wasn't a silent invitation, it was a blatant provocation. And I, Serafina, had never known fear when faced with a dare. I smiled, my bare feet cool against the wooden floor, and followed him straight into the tiger's den. His scent enveloped me the moment I stepped in. I didn't rush to the shower but let my eyes sweep across the room. Minimalist, luxurious, and powerful just like its owner. When I emerged from the bathroom, still clad only in the single towel, I saw him seated on the sofa, his wine glass empty. "Come here," he commanded, his voice hoarse, an undeniable order. I didn't hesitate. I walked towards him, each step deliberately slow, deliberately seductive. I didn't stand before him but sat directly beside him, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from his body. He was clearly taken aback by my action. A flicker of interest sparked in his eyes. He reached out and pulled me forcefully into his lap. I yielded, falling into his solid chest. The towel deliberately slipped, revealing a tantalizing, inviting scene. "Serafina," he growled, his hot breath caressing my ear, "you're asking for trouble." I lifted my head to meet his deep gaze, bravely reaching a hand up to caress his chiseled face. "Your trouble or your pleasure?" A wicked smirk played on his lips. "Feisty little thing." "So do you like this feistiness?" I whispered, then boldly leaned in, pressing a kiss onto his lips. Just a small spark was enough to ignite an entire prairie of desire. Alaric no longer maintained his composed facade. He responded to my kiss with a fervent, dominant intensity. The kiss carried the heady taste of wine and absolute possession, pulling me into a whirlpool of passion. I didn't resist. On the contrary, I wrapped my arms around his neck, responding with equal fervor. His large hands began to roam my body, and I helped him shed his last defense. When my body was completely exposed before him, I felt no shame, only a profound satisfaction seeing the flame of desire in his eyes blaze for me. He lifted me into his arms, striding towards the large bed. As my bare back touched the soft mattress, he propped himself above me, his powerful body taut like a volcano about to erupt. "Tonight," he leaned down and whispered into my ear, his voice hypnotic like a curse, "let's exercise together." I smiled, pulling his neck closer. My breath brushed lightly against his lips. "I just worry you won't have the stamina." That was the first night. The night the small, preemie successfully captivated the hunter. In this pursuit of love and desire, there were no winners or losers. We were both willing participants, caught in the sweet trap we had set for ourselves, together sinking into a sinfully fervent ecstasy that reached its very depths. The next morning, I awoke in a strong embrace. The familiar cedarwood scent enveloped me, and my bare back was pressed against Alaric's warm chest. He was still asleep, his steady breath gently caressing the back of my neck. In the morning light filtering through the curtains, I could gaze at his face from a very close distance. His sharp, sword-like eyebrows, his high, straight nose, and those thin lips that had passionately claimed me last night. He looked so peaceful now, devoid of his usual cold, distant demeanor. I dared not move, fearing I would shatter this precious moment. But then, as if sensing my gaze, his long eyelashes trembled slightly before slowly opening. His deep eyes looked directly at me, without a hint of sleepiness, only a terrifying sharpness and alertness. I startled, instinctively trying to pull back, but the arm wrapped around my waist tightened, pulling me closer to him. "Good morning, Uncle Alaric," I said, mustering all my courage to smile at him. He didn't reply, just quietly watched me for a few seconds. His gaze swept over my face, then lingered on the red kiss marks on my neck and shoulder trophies he himself had left last night. A flicker of satisfaction crossed his eyes. "Get up," he said, his voice hoarse, "before Hannah finds out." With that, he released me, got up, and walked into the bathroom as if nothing had happened. His sudden coldness left me feeling a little hollow. As passionate as he was last night, he was equally distant this morning. "Alaric, you truly are an unpredictable man." I quickly slipped back to my room before Hannah woke up. When I came downstairs, breakfast was already prepared. Hannah was cheerfully chattering about something, while Alaric sat at the head of the table, elegantly eating, his eyes never once glancing my way. He had donned the facade of a respectable, polite, and distant uncle once more. "Serafina, you're down, come here and eat breakfast." Hannah waved me over. "Did you sleep well last night? I was so drunk I don't remember a thing." I slept very well," I said, trying to act as natural as possible, avoiding Alaric's gaze. Breakfast unfolded in a strange atmosphere. On the surface, 3 people were happily eating, but underneath was an unspoken current known only to him and me. Occasionally, under the table, his foot would accidentally brush against mine, a subtly teasing touch that made my heart race. Each time, I would look up at him, only to be met with an expressionless face and a nearly imperceptible smirk. That afternoon, as Hannah and I were watching a movie in the living room, she suddenly turned to me and said, "Hey, Serafina, can I tell you a secret?" "What kind of secret?" "It's about my Uncle Alaric," she whispered. "It seems he's about to get a girlfriend. I heard Mom and Dad say she's the esteemed Miss Vivienne of the Cheng family. They're a perfect match of compatible social standing." My heart felt as if someone had squeezed it. The esteemed Miss Vivienne of the Cheng family, a perfect match. So what was I, just a passing fling for his amusement? "Oh, really? Congratulations to him." I forced a smile, but my throat felt tight. Hannah didn't notice my unusual reaction and continued to babble. "But I don't think Uncle Alaric likes her very much. He hates fake women who always pretend to be demure. He prefers someone more interesting." Hannah's words sent my emotions on a roller coaster. He doesn't like her. He likes someone interesting. Was he talking about me? That night I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Thoughts of Alaric, of the esteemed Miss Cheng, swirled in my head. What was I to him? A secret lover or just a new toy? Just then my room door quietly opened, a tall figure slipped in, then slammed the door shut. The dry click of the lock echoed in the silent night. Without looking, I knew who it was. Alaric walked towards me, not saying a word, only expressing himself through action. He pushed me down onto the bed, his powerful body immediately covering mine. "SHH," he placed a finger on my lips, his eyes glowing fiercely in the dark like those of a wild beast. "Tonight, you are mine." His kiss this time was even more dominant and possessive than last night. He gave me no chance to think or resist. He tore my nightgown, his large, burning hot hand roaming my body, igniting a flame of desire wherever it touched. "I heard someone is getting engaged," I panted, asking between broken kisses. He paused, looking straight into my eyes, a wicked smile on his lips. "Are you jealous?" He called me dear. Just that one word was enough to collapse all my defenses. He didn't answer my question, but used a deeper, more fervent kiss to block any words I intended to say. In the dark room, we intertwined once more, exercising wildly. He used his strength to assert his ownership, while I, with my eager yet unspoken responses, let him know that I was a willing participant in this dangerous game. But just as we reached the climax, a sudden knock on the door echoed. It was followed by Hannah's clear voice. "Serafina, are you asleep yet? I brought you some warm milk. Can I come in?" My entire body froze. Hannah's footsteps grew closer and closer. Damn it, what do I do now? For a moment, my mind went completely blank. The knocking and Hannah's voice were like a bucket of ice water thrown onto a raging fire. My whole body stiffened, and I could feel Alaric's body also halt for a brief second. But even in that precarious situation, he maintained a terrifying calm. As fast as a panther, he instantly moved off me, placing a finger on my lips to signal silence. His eyes were sharp, devoid of any panic. He quickly scanned the room, his gaze landing on the balcony. Without a word, he snatched the pair of trousers draped over a chair, pulled them on with lightning speed, then slipped out onto the balcony, gently closing the glass door just as Hannah's hand reached for the doorknob. It all happened in less than 5 seconds. "Serafina, what's wrong?" Hannah's voice held a hint of worry when I didn't reply. My heart was still pounding as if it wanted to leap out of my chest. I hastily pulled the duvet up to cover my body and my torn nightgown, trying to steady my ragged breath. I'm here, come in, the door's unlocked." I tried to make my voice sound as normal as possible. Hannah pushed the door open, carrying a glass of warm milk. "You scared me, I kept calling but you didn't answer. Did you have a nightmare?" "Why is your face so red?" She walked to the bed, placing the milk on the nightstand. Her eyes were full of concern as she looked at me, and her very innocence made me feel even guiltier. It's probably just a bit warm in the room," I lied, my hands gripping the edge of the blanket tightly. I was terrified that even a small movement would reveal the traces of our recent passionate encounter. "Warm, the air conditioner is on though." Hannah looked puzzled, reaching out to touch my forehead. "No fever." "Here, drink some warm milk to help you sleep. You've been looking a bit worn out lately." I forced a smile and took the milk. "Thanks, Hannah. No need to be formal between friends. Anyway, get some early sleep. I'm heading back to my room." After Hannah left, I finally dared to breathe a sigh of relief. I locked the door, then shakily walked towards the balcony. Alaric was standing there, leaning against the railing, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a lit cigarette that he must have lit at some point. His lazy, worldly demeanor under the moonlight made him appear even more dangerous and alluring. "Exciting, wasn't it?" he asked, his tone laced with a mocking amusement. I said nothing, just walked up and wrapped my arms around him from behind, pressing my face against his broad, solid back. I was still shaken from the situation. He extinguished his cigarette, then turned to face me. He looked down into my eyes, his large hand lifting my chin. "Scared?" I nodded. He scoffed, a wicked smile spreading across his face. "This is the rule of the game, Serafina. The more dangerous, the more interesting." With that, he lifted me into his arms, strode into the room, and lightly kicked the balcony door shut. He placed me down on the bed, where the warmth and chaos of our encounter still lingered. "The game isn't over yet," he whispered, this time without the frenzied passion, but with a punitive and intense possession. He gave me no chance to utter a sound. I could only bite my lip, trying not to make any noise that might alarm the person in the next room. The silence in the dark amplified every sense. Every touch, every breath was magnified tenfold. That night, he made me understand that in this game, he was the one in complete control. The next day, Hannah's words came true. Miss Vivienne Cheng of the esteemed Cheng family came to visit. She truly was a masterpiece of creation. Long, wavy hair, a delicate face, dressed in a pristine white dress, her gestures and words exuded gentleness and cultivation. She sat beside Alaric, looking truly like a match made in heaven. Hannah and I sat opposite them. Hannah happily chatted away, while I could only lower my head and drink tea, feeling like an extra, a faded supporting character in their story. "Alaric, this is Longjing tea I specially brought back from Hangzhou. Please try it and see if it suits your taste." Vivienne smiled, pouring tea for him herself. "Thank you," Alaric replied politely but distantly. He took a sip of tea, then his gaze suddenly swept over me, a deep look laden with teasing and scrutiny, as if he wanted to see my reaction. My heart tightened. He was provoking me. Right in front of his fiancée, he still didn't forget to tease me. I felt a smoldering fire of jealousy burning within me. I placed my teacup down on the table with a sharp click, small but enough to attract everyone's attention. "Excuse me, I'm a little tired. I'll go up to my room first." I stood up, trying to maintain my composure, then turned and walked away. I could feel Alaric's gaze fixed on my back. I walked faster, almost fleeing. But just as I passed the study on the second floor, a strong arm suddenly pulled me inside. The heavy wooden door slammed shut. Alaric pressed me against the bookshelf, his tall body completely trapping me. Jealous? He repeated his question from last night, but this time his tone was 100 times more dangerous. No, I'm not, I stubbornly denied. Oh, really? Then tell me, what was that almost crying expression on your face just now? He sneered, his long, slender finger lightly caressing my cheek. Serafina, you must remember your place. He lowered his head, pressing close to my ear, his hot breath caressing my sensitive earlobe. His deep, husky voice was intoxicating. You are just my secret lover. You are just my secret lover. Each word Alaric uttered was like an invisible knife stabbing straight into my heart. Pain, humiliation, and a furious anger surged in my chest. I had thought that even without a title, there was at least something special between us, but his words cruelly tore it all apart. I looked directly into his eyes, his deep gaze glinting with mockery. Instead of crying, I laughed, a cold, self-deprecating laugh. Secret lover, I raised an eyebrow, my voice also sharpening. Alaric, don't flatter yourself too much. To me, you're just an exercise partner. What right do you think you have to be jealous? The defiance in my eyes seemed to enrage the beast within him. The smile vanished from his lips, replaced by a deadly coldness. He tightened his grip on my chin, so strong it hurt. Exercise partner, he growled each word. All right, let me show you what an exercise partner has the right to do. Without a word of warning, he bent down and claimed my lips with a punishing kiss. There was no tenderness, only anger, possession, and brutality. He bit and sucked my lips until they bled. The pungent taste of blood mingled with the taste of wine in his mouth, creating a flavor of danger and madness. His hands were no longer teasing caresses, but blatant claims. He tore open the buttons of my shirt, his hands slipping inside, brutally kneading. No, stop, Uncle. Uncle Alaric, this is the study. I resisted in panic, trying to push his solid chest away. We were right in the study, just a wall away from the living room where Vivienne and Hannah were sitting. Scared. He scoffed, his hot breath on my face. Didn't you say I had no right? Now I'll show you, I can do whatever I want, wherever I want. He pulled me towards the large rosewood desk, pushing me to sit on it, scattering stacks of documents onto the floor. He trapped me between his legs, continuing his furious assault. The fear of being discovered and the thrill of his audacious actions mingled, creating an overwhelming sense of guilt. He was teaching me a lesson. I could only be his, regardless of any title. Just as he was about to take another step, footsteps and the voice of a maid echoed from the hallway. Growing closer, Miss Cheng, your father is here. My heart seemed to stop beating. Alaric also paused. He quickly pulled my clothes back into place, covering the chaotic traces. His face remained strangely calm. He only gave me a sharp glance. Stay here. With that, he casually walked out and opened the door, taking a tea tray from the maid as if nothing had happened. I stood hidden behind the bookshelf, my heart still pounding, my entire body trembling. When I returned to the living room, trying to appear as normal as possible, Vivienne was smiling and talking with Alaric. But upon seeing me, her gaze briefly swept over my slightly swollen red lips and disheveled collar. A cold glint flashed in her gentle eyes, then vanished instantly. Miss Serafina doesn't look too well, Vivienne suddenly said, her voice still gentle. Perhaps it's due to not being accustomed to the weather here. Alaric, you should pay a little more attention to your guest. Her words were like a needle, both mocking me and reminding Alaric of his role as host. I realized this woman was not simple at all. This was an unspoken declaration of war. That evening, Alaric didn't come. I felt both relieved and an unnamed sense of loss. As I was getting ready for bed, I discovered a black velvet box on my pillow. I opened it. Inside was an exquisitely designed platinum bracelet. The centerpiece was a stylized letter S made of tiny diamonds. No note, no explanation, but I knew who it was from. What was this? An apology or a gesture of condescension? He used cruel actions to remind me of my place, then used an expensive gift to appease me. Alaric, you truly are a devil, a master manipulator. He was chaining me with an invisible yet dazzling shackle. I put the bracelet on. It was cold but fit perfectly. That night he came again. He entered my room without a sound. He wasn't as eager as before. He just stood quietly at the foot of the bed, watching me. His gaze lingered on the sparkling bracelet on my wrist. Do you like it? He asked, his voice deep and husky. I didn't reply, just looked at him. He walked over and sat on the edge of the bed, reaching out to touch the bracelet. His cold fingers brushed against my skin, making me shiver slightly. From now on, it's yours, he said. Just like you are mine. Then he leaned down and kissed me. This kiss was no longer a punishment, but a deep possession, carrying a rare tenderness and an indescribably complex emotion. The exercise tonight was also different. It wasn't wild, not brutal, but slow, lingering. It was as if he was using his body to engrave his name deep into my soul, so I would never forget him. When everything ended, he held me close, not leaving immediately as he usually did. Don't even think about leaving me, Serafina, he whispered into my ear, his voice both a warning and a plea. You won't escape. Lying in his arms, watching the diamond bracelet glow in the dark, I knew I had fallen too deep. But I refused to be merely a secret lover imprisoned in this gilded cage. No, if this was a game, I wouldn't just be a passive pawn. Alaric, just you wait. I'll make you regret underestimating me. Alaric's warning still echoed in my ears, but it no longer scared me. Instead, it ignited a fire of determination within me. You want a game? Fine. But from now on, I'll be the one to set the rules. The next morning, I was the first to wake. I gently removed his arm from my waist, silently slipping out of bed. I didn't rush back to my room but went into his bathroom to change into an elegant white dress and apply light makeup. When I emerged, he was awake, sitting on the bed, his deep eyes following my every move. Good morning, Uncle Alaric, I smiled, a perfectly polite, dispassionate smile. I'll go downstairs first and help the maid prepare breakfast. I didn't wait for his reply, turning and leaving. I could feel his scrutinizing, perplexed gaze fixed on my back. Alaric, your surprise has only just begun. During breakfast, I no longer avoided him. I sat opposite him, occasionally looking up and smiling at him, a proper smile from a friend's niece to her friend's uncle. When Hannah brought up the art exhibition that weekend, I seized the opportunity. Oh, that's great, Serafina, you'll come with me, won't you? Hannah excitedly asked. Of course. I happily agreed. Oh, by the way, Hannah, Liam, our senior from university, is also very knowledgeable about painting. How about we invite him along for fun? He just returned to the country, too. Liam was a prominent senior in college, handsome, talented, and from a good family. Most importantly, he used to pursue me. Hannah immediately agreed. That's a great idea, the more the merrier, I'll call him. Throughout the conversation, I noticed Alaric didn't say a word. He continued to eat elegantly, but the silver chopsticks in his hand paused for a beat when I mentioned Liam's name. His lips slightly pursed, a sign of displeasure. Just as I predicted, the exhibition visit went smoothly. Liam was very gallant. He patiently explained the meaning of each painting to Hannah and me. He looked at me with undisguised admiration and affection. I reciprocated with smiles and attentive listening. We looked like a sweet couple in the early stages of dating. And I knew my every move did not escape another pair of eyes. Even though Alaric didn't come along, he surely had someone watching me. That evening, as I arrived home and before I could even go to my room, he stopped me on the stairs. He said nothing, just quietly looked at me, his eyes as dark as an impending storm. Uncle Alaric, is something wrong? I asked innocently, still holding my handbag, a cheerful smile from my outing still on my lips. Enjoy yourself. He asked, his voice terrifyingly low. Oh, yes, the exhibition was wonderful. Liam truly is a very knowledgeable person. I deliberately emphasized Liam's name. Liam, he scoffed, a cold smile. Since when have you been so close? He and I have always been friends. Uncle Alaric, if there's nothing else, I'd like to go to my room and rest. I said, intending to slip past him, but he grabbed my wrist where I wore his platinum bracelet. He pulled me forcefully into his arms, lifted me onto his shoulder, and strode towards his room despite my struggles. Alaric, what are you doing? Put me down. He kicked the door shut, throwing me onto the familiar large bed. The bracelet on my wrist clinked coldly against the bed frame. He propped himself up with his hands beside my head, trapping me within his solid chest. You dare challenge me? He growled, his eyes blazing as if to burn me. Do you think you can use some other brat to provoke me, Serafina? I don't know what you're talking about, Uncle Alaric, I stubbornly insisted. You don't understand, he sneered, leaning down to bite my earlobe hard. Then let me help you understand better. Tonight's exercise is a real battle. He attacked me with a frenzied, brutal intensity, as if to unleash all his jealousy and anger. But I was no longer the girl who could only grit her teeth and endure. I used the very skills he had taught me to fight back. I actively kissed him, scratched his firm back, and used provocative words to retaliate. "What's wrong, Alaric? Are you scared?" I panted, whispering into his ear as he was inside me. "Scared that I'll find a better man than you, a man who can give me a proper title?" His body stiffened. He looked up at me with a complex gaze I had never seen before. And it was not only desire and possessiveness, but also a flicker of panic he tried to conceal. "Say it again," I said. "You're scared." I smirked, reaching up to caress his chiseled face. "You're scared that the prey you thought was firmly in your grasp might just grow wings and fly away. You're scared that in this game, you're no longer in control." He said nothing, just stared at me, then leaned down and devoured my lips with a hungry kiss. He used sheer force to overpower me, as if to prove me wrong. But in that intense ecstasy, I knew I had won a round. For the first time, I had planted a seed of insecurity in the heart of this arrogant man. When everything ended, he lay on top of me, unmoving, only breathing heavily. "Serafina," he called my name, his voice thick. "Don't force me to use stronger measures." I just smiled in the darkness. "Alaric, the game has truly just begun. Let's see who will be forced to use stronger measures." Alaric's stronger measures came sooner than I expected, but it wasn't physical possession, it was a direct psychological attack. 2 days later, during a family dinner with Hannah's parents present, Alaric made a shocking announcement. "Brother and sister," he said, his tone calm, yet each word was like a stone dropped into a still pond. "Vivienne and I have decided to get engaged at the end of next month." The atmosphere in the dining room froze. Hannah's parents beamed with joy, while Hannah herself was so surprised she dropped her chopsticks. As for me, I only felt a coldness spread from my chest. He had made his move. He used this method to pressure me, to see how I would react, to prove that no matter how much I struggled, he would still be the ultimate victor. I slowly set my glass down, looked directly into his eyes, and smiled a radiant and genuine smile. "Congratulations, Uncle Alaric, congratulations, Miss Vivienne. You truly are a perfect match." My composure was clearly beyond Alaric's prediction. A flicker of undisguised astonishment appeared in his eyes. I turned to Hannah's parents. "Uncle, Auntie, I have something to tell you. My internship is almost over and I've found a small apartment. I'll be moving out this weekend so as not to bother your family anymore." "Oh, why are you leaving so soon, dear?" Hannah's mother asked, trying to hold me back. "Well, I can't impose forever. Besides," I glanced at Alaric, then turned to Hannah, "Liam just came back to the country and he said he'd help me move." Alaric's hand, holding his wine glass, tightened, his knuckles turning white. "He lost. He thought his trump card would break me, but he was wrong." Not only did I not break, I calmly retreated, pushing him back towards the fiancé he had chosen. On the day I moved out, Vivienne arrived. She stopped me in my room as I was packing my last items. "You lost," she said, her smile triumphant but unable to hide her fatigue. "That bracelet is beautiful, but in the end, I'm the one wearing the engagement ring with him." I just smiled, raised my wrist, took off the platinum bracelet and placed it on the table. "Oh, really? Then do you know that every night while you were dreaming of a fairytale wedding, your man was exercising wildly with me?" Vivienne's face turned ashen. "You might get the title, get everyone's recognition." I stepped closer, leaning in to whisper in her ear, "But you will never have his madness, his desire, and his weakest moments. You have a shell, but I have his soul. Tell me, who is the real loser?" With that, I pulled my suitcase and walked straight out, leaving Vivienne with a dazed expression and her hollow victory. Right on time, Liam arrived to pick me up. He helped me with my last suitcase. As we walked down to the living room, Alaric was standing there. He wore a sharp black suit, but his face looked gaunt, with dark circles under his eyes. Hannah stood beside him, her face full of worry. "Serafina," Liam had just begun to speak when Alaric's voice cut him off, deep, husky, and full of authority. "She's not going anywhere." He strode towards me, his eyes fixed on me, a gaze filled with pain, regret, and a fear of loss I had never seen before. He stood before me under the stunned gazes of Liam and Hannah. He reached out not to pull me but to brush a strand of hair from my cheek. "Don't go," he said, his voice almost a plea. "I was wrong." Then he turned to Liam. "Thank you for coming, but from now on, everything about her will be my responsibility." He turned to Hannah and her parents, who were standing upstairs. "Brother, sister, I apologize. There will be no engagement. The only person I want by my side has always been Serafina." The whole world seemed to explode. Hannah's mouth hung open in shock. Liam was stunned. Uncle Alaric, you and Serafina?" Hannah stammered. Alaric didn't answer her. He just looked at me. In his deep eyes was a sky full of repressed emotions. "The game is over, Serafina. I lost. I love you." He said it. The arrogant man, who always controlled everything in the palm of his hand, finally admitted his defeat, admitted his love right in front of everyone. My heart trembled, and the tears I had suppressed for so many days finally broke free and streamed down my face. That night, after everything was settled, after my sincere apology and Hannah's bewildered acceptance, Alaric held me in his room. "Why?" I asked, my voice still choked with emotion. "Why did it have to be so complicated, and why did we have to hurt each other so much?" He held me tighter, burying his face in my hair. "Because I was afraid. For the first time in my life, I felt like I couldn't control something, and that was my feelings for you. I was afraid that if I admitted it, I would lose everything. I used the most foolish way to keep you, to test you. But in the end, the one who was tested and miserably failed was me." He looked up and gently kissed my tear. "Please forgive me." I looked deep into his eyes, where there was no longer any possessiveness or calculation, only sincerity and profound love. "So, after this," I smiled, a mischievous grin, "will exercising still be a game?" He laughed, a truly radiant laugh. He leaned down and whispered into my ear, his voice warm and full of love. "No, from now on, it's love.